Hi, Stuart. I've got a question on that. With MCOs, if there's fraud, waste, or abuse that's found, doesn't the MCO get to keep all that money?
It's an issue that differs across the country. In Texas, the statute provides that the MCO keeps what the MCO recovers. But then there was a rule that was, and that's common across the country. Matter of fact, as I learned at the National Association of Medicaid Provider Integrity Conference last week, the most common standard, the one CMS likes, is MCOs keep what they recover. If the IG and MCO do it together, they should split it. If the IG does it, then the IG keeps it. That makes sense. That's not what we currently have, because then a rule was passed, I think in 2012, that added a provision that said whatever the IG recovers, the IG returns all of that to the MCOs. At least that's the plain text of the rule.
You represent the MCOs, but let's think about this as a taxpayer. So I'm basically paying what should be a capitated rate, kind of. Anyway, and so then that's used out there, and if somebody's abusing it, then it just goes back to the MCO, which is a for-profit company. That doesn't make sense to me. It should go back to the taxpayers.
Well, I think this is an issue that we should have discussions about, with stakeholders together. And this was a matter, as you know, we tried to address last session. It just wasn't possible. But what I've learned is I think there is a best practice out there, and we should explicate the bases for that best practice.
That 90% of Medicaid is now under managed care.
Yes. After November 1st.
So again, I'm a willing listener here to understand how is it that the taxpayer who pays the bills is reimbursed for fraud, waste, and abuse.
And I think you're identifying, Senator Kolkhorst, an area that we should explore for further reform.
Okay. I'm just going to tell you, Mr. Chairman, I am a willing listener, but none of that makes sense to me. Okay? That's just plain. If I went out on a courthouse step and told the taxpayers out there, oh, by the way, if we find fraud, waste, and abuse in the Medicaid system, it goes to the company, not back to you. So I'm just going to say that. And then...
now, getting into reporting of, I think you guys mentioned some of this. So when there is an actual recovery, and like I say, recoveries are such a small piece of what we're really trying to accomplish here. But when there is an actual recovery, what happens with the money? So, and maybe the best way in layman's terms to talk about in budget terminology is that it's basically a method of finance in the premium when the state sets the premium process. So the state already takes into account the anticipated amount of recovery when they are creating that premium. So if you took that out of the premium and just had them turn, which you can, and had them turn that over to the IG's office, the state would have to increase the amount of money they're spending on the premium.
So we have a risk margin for recoveries?
No, it's an assumption that they're going to recover a certain amount every year, and it's built into the cost. And it's built into the method of finance of that premium, paying for it. So that premium still costs the same amount. It's just that they're using some of the assumption that that's coming in to pay for it. So if you take that part out of the premium, that cost is still there. It's not, and in return, I guess the state is getting that amount of money. It's using it to pay for the cost of the program. If additional recoveries come in over and above what someone has seen, then that goes into pre-tax income, which is then turned into experience rebates. And then that is also given back to the state.
Is that a line item on your...
FSRs.
They are? It is? FSRs? Mm-hmm. It is a line item regarding anticipated recovery amounts.
And how much, when we turn in the FSRs, the amount that are recovered is turned in on the FSR information. Mm-hmm. And then they use that to recreate the premium the next time. So if it went up, right, so if that recovery amount went up that's happening in the system, they then adjust that amount that's assumed that goes up in the premium setting process again for that next September 1.
So the premiums will go up slightly based upon an increased increased recovery amount, for instance.
Well, what you would actually see is medical spend go down, right? So because you kept medical spend down, so the medical spend portion of that premium in addition, and then you would also see that they were having income of recoveries, and both of those pieces would be taken into account in the premium setting process.